Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a sci-fi thriller movie called ZPG. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens in a distant future, where the world is on the verge of collapse due to overpopulation and pollution. There is a permanent thick smog that has settled over the desolate cities, so people must wear breathing masks when outside. One day, the president announces that the government has decided to take some drastic steps to address this issue. He reveals that in the past, they have rejected measures such as euthanasia and mass sterilization in favor of their people. However, the world's nations have now agreed unanimously that no babies will be born for the next 30 years. Any newborn found from now on will be killed, and their parents will be executed as well. Outside, a group of people wearing masks are vehemently protesting the decision. The president then states that an exception has been made for women who are currently pregnant. These newborns will be registered in the system and given an electronic imprint. This way, if anyone tries to pass off unauthorized babies as legitimate, they can be easily identified. The scene then shifts to 8 years later, when the world is still smoggy and overcrowded. We see a large corporation called Babyland, where couples can pick up robotic children to satisfy their desire for parenthood. There, a salesman is showing a couple a robotic child who can walk and have basic conversations. He explains that these robots need to be fed, given attention, and can even simulate illness, so parents can experience a sense of realism. The customer gives a name for the child, after which the salesman activates it. The robotic child then starts saying, "I love you, mommy," which makes the woman very emotional. She hugs the robot and tells him that she loves him too. These people are broken beyond recognition. Meanwhile, we see another couple, Russ and Carol, waiting their turn to get a child. However, Carol panics upon seeing the scene and leaves, with her husband following her. They then go outside where the police have detained a young child. His mother claims that he is 8 years old, but the officers don't believe her. Soon enough, a giant dome arrives to capture the woman and her child, but at the last minute, the police scan the boy and discover the electronic imprint, proving that he's authorized. In the next scene, Russ and Carol head to their workplace, which is a museum. We see that the museum displays stuffed animals rather than live ones, and visitors are fascinated by them. I think that's the Princess Diana edition. It turns out that all species except humans have been extinct for a very long time. The museum also features other extinct items, such as cars and gasoline. There is also a gallery of criminals that blames politicians and religious leaders for causing environmental damage by allowing overpopulation. We then see Russ and Carol seemingly heading home and having dinner with another couple, George and Edna. But moments later, the visitors begin to applaud, and we realize that this is part of the museum exhibit that reenacts what life was like in the 1970s. In the evening, Carol goes home and makes a video call with her physician. She informs him that she visited the baby shop today, but panicked at the last moment and left. She also claims that she doesn't understand this world and is very unhappy. Carol acknowledges that she has a privileged life compared to others, with a nice home and fresh food. When the doctor asks what's wrong then, she confesses that she wants a real child. However, her doctor strongly opposes this idea, claiming that it is impossible. He advises her not to think about such things and to accept this system as her reality. The next day, Carol visits a place called Twilight City, which is home to the nation's elderly people. There, she meets a family doctor named Herrick, who delivered her at birth. Carol reminds him of who she is, but he appears very depressed and rambles about how terrible the world has become. He reflects on how they conquered cancer and achieved many things, but all of it seems to have been in vain. Upon hearing this, Carol feels saddened and walks away without saying anything. While returning home, she notices a woman running through the streets, repeatedly shouting, "Baby." It turns out the woman has discovered a couple who illegally gave birth to a baby. Shortly after, the police arrive with a large crowd, and everyone begins charging at the couple. The poor husband and wife beg for mercy, but the angry mob corners them. At this moment, the giant dome descends from the sky, and the transgressors are placed inside it. They will now be left for 12 hours to reflect on their actions before being suffocated and killed. After the family is enclosed in the dome, the woman who reported them is given a free ration card, which makes her very happy. Meanwhile, Carol is deeply shaken by the horrifying scene scene and quietly heads home. In the evening, she and Russ make love, after which she abruptly reveals that she's pregnant. Carol says she wants to keep the baby, but Russ refuses and asks her to get rid of it. Feeling disappointed, she goes to the bathroom, where there is an abortion booth with a button to terminate the pregnancy, but she can't bring herself to use it and decides to keep the baby. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Russ hears the machine whirring and feels satisfied. The following day, we see their neighbor Edna on a video call with her therapist. It turns out that she has adopted a robotic child, but she complains that it doesn't feel real and is just plastic. The therapist advises her not to abandon her child, stating that he would be lost without her. Edna is still hesitant, but after some convincing, she eventually picks up the robot and starts coddling him.
Show me those boobsies, mama.
The scene then shifts to several months later. Around Christmas time, the government announces an increase in ration intake to celebrate the holiday season. We then see Carol and her husband in bed, where she finally announces that she's 4 months pregnant. This shocks poor Russ, and he asserts that they will get into serious trouble. However, when Carol insists that she wants to take the risk, he has no choice but to agree. He simply asks her to hide for a few months, as she has to cover up her pregnancy. The next day, Russ takes his wife to their home's bunker, which is designed to withstand atomic attacks. He later goes to Edna and George's house and explains that his wife has abandoned him. Upon hearing this, the couple feels sorry for him and tries to cheer him up. Edna then sends her husband and the robotic child to sleep, stating it is too late. But after that, she unexpectedly begins making out with Russ, despite his refusal. The situation appears to be very tense, but then we hear clapping sounds. Turns out they're still in the museum, reenacting life in the 1970s, where swinger culture, free love, unsafe sex, and a lack of condoms were all a glorious reality. Following this, we are taken to a few months later, where Carol is heavily pregnant and arrives upstairs at home to rest. As the couple prepares to go downstairs, they accidentally activate the home telehealth services, and a doctor appears on the TV. Russ manages to turn it off in the nick of time, but the stress causes Carol to experience severe pain in her stomach. The next day, Russ visits the museum library and begins watching videos about tapestries. He then switches to the video about premature birth, but as soon as he clicks on the video, he is transported to a red room with a hall of mirrors. A security guard then questions him about why he's trying to learn about premature birth. Russ explains that he was intending to learn about tapestries and accidentally clicked on the wrong video. Thankfully, the staff buys his story and lets him off the hook for now, mostly out of pity, because dude's got some boring-ass hobbies. Next, Russ hurries home, where his wife is experiencing contractions and is in immense pain. He assists her with childbirth, and after some difficulty, she finally gives birth to a baby boy. The couple is overjoyed and decides to name him Jesse. The next day, Russ goes to Babyland, where he buys a robotic child for the family. The couple then fabricates another story, saying Carol has returned to her husband and agreed to adopt a robotic baby. Everything seems to be going well until one day, Jesse suddenly becomes ill. A worried Carol pushes him around town in a stroller, claiming it to be the robotic child. Along the way, she is approached by a woman who wants to see the baby, but Carol refuses and hurriedly leaves. Meanwhile, Edna observes this from a distance and becomes suspicious. Shortly after, Carol arrives at Twilight City, where she meets Dr. Herrick, the only person she trusts. The doctor is pleased to see the child and proceeds to examine him. However, he discovers nothing wrong and confirms that the baby is perfectly healthy. This relieves Carol, and she thanks him profusely before leaving. Upon returning home with Jesse, she is shocked to find Edna waiting for her. The woman has discovered her secret, which makes Carol very scared. However, Edna assures her that she won't tell anyone and that she just wants to see and touch the baby. Carol is reluctant, but she eventually gives in to the request. The touch of a real baby fills Edna with happiness, and she leaves there satisfied. The next day, she brings George along to meet the baby. Both of them appear very excited, and it's evident that they're jealous of our protagonists. They promise that they won't disclose the secret and offer to help with raising the baby. Carol and Russ immediately refuse, but the couple insists that they only want to be part of the family. This leaves the real parents with no choice but to let them visit Jesse occasionally. In the following days, the frantic couple begins to visit frequently to check on the baby. Russ and Carol are certainly annoyed by this, but they keep silent due to the fear of being reported. The situation worsens when Edna starts taking the child to her house without his parents' permission. She and George eventually start demanding that they be allowed to spend time with Jesse on alternate days. From now on, having had enough, our protagonists decide to make an escape plan to get rid of the couple. They locate the nearest execution square and begin digging a tunnel from their bunker, which leads to that location. The next day, George and Edna arrive to pick up Jesse, but the rightful parents refuse to hand him over. This leads to a heated argument, and the evil couple eventually manages to take the child away. However, Edna soon learns that the baby is actually a robot. How the hell did she make that mistake? This makes her so angry that she begins screaming like a maniac and destroys the robot. She and her equally crazy husband then start shouting throughout town, claiming that another couple stole their baby. The dumbest fucking plan in all the land. Shortly after, the police arrive at Russ and Carol's house and immediately arrest them, along with the baby. The couple does not resist and surrenders without causing a scene. They are then taken to the nearest execution square, where they are placed in a dome. It is painted over to make it completely invisible, and after 12 hours, the perpetrators will be suffocated. Meanwhile, Edna is given a ration card for reporting her friend, but she rejects it and begins to scream hysterically. In the final scene, we see Russ and Carol inside the dome, taking out some tools they had hidden. They immediately begin digging through the dirt, and after a few hours, arrive at the tunnel they had dug earlier. The couple then boards a raft and rides through the sewers. They eventually paddle across a lake and reach a remote island with no visible pollution. This overjoys the couple, as they hope to start afresh with their baby here. However, unbeknownst to them, a nearby sign indicates that the island is still radioactive due to old nuclear missiles buried in 1978. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.